My name is Parisa. I was 32 years old and my only wish was to find a cheap apartment close to my job. I had been searching for 3 months. My salary wasn't enough to rent anything. Decent downtown where the new glass towers had pushed prices past anything reasonable. So, when I saw the listing for that unit, fourth floor, room 44, half the going rate, I thought I had finally gotten lucky. The building was old, one of those three-story brick structures from an earlier generation, standing among the new towers downtown like a forgotten keepsake. Nobody had the heart to demolish. When I went to see it, the courtyard was full of ancient trees and a dry stone fountain in the middle that hadn't held water in years. Ivy had crept up one wall, and the iron gate creaked in a way that felt almost deliberate, like the building itself was clearing its throat before letting me in. The landlord, an elderly man named Mr. Rostami, hesitated for a moment as he handed me the key. His eyes held something strange, not quite fear, more like pity, the way you might look at someone about to walk into weather you know is coming. There's just one thing you should know. This unit, it empties out every so often. Tenants, usually, leave after a year or two without any warning. I laughed. I bet it's because the rent's so good. They save up and move somewhere nicer. He didn't laugh. He just nodded slowly and placed the key in my palm, holding my gaze a second. Too long. The first week, everything was ordinary. The building was old, the kind where the wooden floors groan when you walk and the windows rattle softly whenever the wind picks up. But it also had a strange calm to it. Unlike the new apartments where car horns and shop speakers never stop, here there was silence. A silence I would later realize was far more deceptive than I understood. My neighbor across the hall, an elderly woman named Bibi Gal, left a small glass of tea by her door every morning and always offered me some. She was warm, the kind of grandmother figure who seemed to have spent her whole life caring for others. One evening when I thanked her for her kindness, her tone shifted suddenly, and she said, "My dear, if you hear a voice from the room next to yours at night, don't answer it." I was caught off guard. "Which room? That one's empty." "I know it's empty. That's exactly why I'm telling you." And without another word, she closed her door. I couldn't sleep that night. Around 2 in the morning, from the room next door, the one that was locked and supposedly empty, I heard a woman's voice, soft and low, calling my name. Parisa. Exactly the way my mother used to say it when I was a child, with that particular stretch on the vowel that only she used. My whole body went cold. I told myself I must be dreaming, but my eyes were wide open, and I hadn't slept a minute. In the morning, I asked Mr. Rostami about the room. "That's Unit 403. It's been empty for years. Its last tenant, well, she left without a word. Like the others." "The others? How many is that?" He paused as if wrestling with whether to tell me. 5 people over 20 years. All of them from this same unit you're in now, 404. My heart dropped. "Then why do you keep renting it out?" "Because until someone lives in 404, the building doesn't settle." That sentence frightened me more than anything else he could have said. Next night, I decided to stay awake and see what would happen. At 2 o'clock, the voice came again. This time I went to the door. Through the gap beneath it, a faint light leaked out from under the door of 403, the door to a room that was supposed to be empty and without power. The following day, while Mr. Rostami was out, I asked the building's caretaker, a man named Gholam Aga, to open 403 for me, on the pretext that I thought its pipes had burst and were leaking into my ceiling. Reluctantly, his hand trembling on the key, he opened it. "Go in and come right back out, girl. I'll wait here by the door." The room was not empty. It was full of furniture, as if someone still lived there, but a fine layer of dust covered everything, as though no one had set foot inside for years. A neatly made bed, a dried-out flower pot on the windowsill, and on the desk a notebook. I opened it. The first line read, "If you're reading this, then it's your turn now." My hand shook as I turned the pages. The notebook belonged to the last tenant of 404, a woman named Shirin. She had written that she too had heard a woman's voice, and that she had discovered 403 was, in fact, a hidden space built between two units during a renovation of the building decades earlier. A space where something terrible had happened. Shirin wrote that a laborer named Kareem had been trapped beneath a collapsed section of ceiling during that renovation, and that his body had never been fully recovered. But another name kept repeating throughout the notebook over and over. Suspenseful, Whitestone, the name of a village, the place where Kareem and most of the workers on that project had come from. Part 3, the village of Suspenseful. My curiosity only deepened. I went to Golem Aga and asked if he knew anything about the village and the workers from that time. It turned out that as a young man, he himself had worked on that very renovation project. Back then, they brought in a crew of laborers from a remote village, Suspenseful, up in the mountains. The people there were traditional, believed in things we city folks used to laugh at. Kareem, the one who died under the rubble, was from that same village. His mother, an old woman named Bibi Khatoon, came to the city once, looking for her son's body. When they told her the body hadn't been fully recovered, she muttered something I've never forgotten. Body hadn't been fully recovered. She muttered something I've never forgotten. Then his soul will be left alone. It won't rest until someone stays with it. This matched exactly what Mr. Rostami had told me. I decided to travel to Suspenseful myself, hoping I might find some way to finally put an end to all of this. The village was roughly 5 hours from the city by car, tucked deep in the mountains, at the point where the paved road ended and a narrow dirt track took over. By the time I arrived, it was dusk. Mud brick and stone houses lined narrow alleys, and the only sounds were the bells of grazing, sheep, and the trickle of water in a small irrigation channel running along the main lane. Smoke curled up from a few chimneys. An old man sat outside a small tea house, watching me with the unhurried curiosity villages reserved for strangers. Inside the tea house, an elderly man who introduced himself as Aga Rahim poured me tea without being asked and listened while I explained why I had come. When I mentioned Kareem's name, his face changed, not with surprise, but with the weary recognition of someone hearing an old story return. Kareem's sister is still alive, he said finally. Golnaz lives at the far end of the village, by the spring. She's the one who'd know what you're asking. He walked me partway himself, past low stone walls and a small mosque with a leaning minaret, until Golnaz's house came into view, a modest home with a walnut tree in the yard and a stream running just behind it. When I told her everything, the voices, the notebook, room 403, the color drained from her face. She sat down slowly on the wooden bench outside her door before speaking. I knew someone would come eventually. My mother, Bibi Khatoon, said before she died that Kareem's spirit was trapped in that building because his body was never properly buried and the funeral rites were never completed. In our tradition, if someone dies incompletely and the rites go unfinished, their soul searches for someone to stay with it, as though it wants to take someone along so it won't be alone anymore. It isn't cruelty, it's just loneliness, a terrible, endless loneliness. I asked her if there was any way to bring him peace. Golnaz explained that, according to the old beliefs of the village, if I carried a handful of soil from Kareem's birthplace and scattered it inside that hidden space, 403, while performing a simple rite, lighting a candle, speaking his full name aloud, and asking forgiveness and peace on his behalf, his spirit might finally settle and, as she put it, find his way home.